Enemy of the State by Tommy Robinson, narrated by our cyber assistant Rebecca. There are 21 chapters. You may check my profile for updates on X.
Introduction. I was hoping to shout out loud, 3 cheers for Tommy Robinson, on the morning of Thursday, 23rd July 2015. I say Tommy Robinson, sometimes it's Stephen Lennon in the media, or occasionally a long ago name, Stephen Yaxley, whatever. It was going to be 3 cheers for me, the founder and former leader, now officially retired, of the English Defence League. It had been a dramatic, often wild 6 years of street battles and police stitch-ups, of fearing for my family's lives, and resisting attempts by Scotland Yard to recruit me as some kind of undercover informant. 6 years of mad laughs with the lads, but also of long weeks and months in solitary confinement. 6 years of having my life turned upside down and inside out by the state, all for being a British patriot. For trying to wake my fellow countrymen and women up to the dangers of radical Islam. As of Thursday, 23rd July, I would be a free man. I would be able to take my family on holiday, speak on a public platform without having my collar felt, and go about my business like any other citizen of the United Kingdom. The license period of an 18-month prison sentence for lending my brother-in-law the deposit on his first house, yes, really, was due to end on Wednesday, 22nd July. Finally, I could say without fear of being handcuffed again, Luton and Bedfordshire Probation Service, Scotland Yard, and the entire British Constabulary, kiss my arse. I could have shouted as loud as I liked, but no one would have heard. Not while I was locked in yet another concrete box of a solitary confinement cell in the bowels of HMP Peterborough, waiting for someone to tell me what the hell I'd been jailed for this time. Just days before finally being a free man, I was thrown in a cell once again, on the whim of some sadistic so-and-so trying to squeeze one more ounce of misery out of me while they still could. Even the screws in Peterborough, Nick, could hardly believe it, that someone would get recalled to prison just a week or so before their license was up. I was in solitary confinement yet again because, despite all my warnings to the screws, including a note to the prison governor not to do it, they put me on an open wing, 2 cells away from a Muslim murderer doing 28 years. He promptly put a massive bounty on my head, and after I gave a Somali prisoner a slapping, I was told he'd taken the contract to attack me with boiling water. I finally got my wish, the safety and sanctuary of being in solitary. It was only a few days until I was free of the system. I could handle that, but the day and night of 22nd July came and went with no explanation. They kept me locked up another 48 hours. It was probably because they, whoever is watching, and believe me, they are, knew I was due to make a public appearance at the House of Lords on the 23rd. They were desperate to disrupt my life for as long as possible. So for all of you history buffs who celebrated 800 years of the signing of Magna Carta this summer, be my guest and shove your habeas corpus up your deluded liberal backsides. There isn't much justice in the British justice system, as I've come to know and hate. Indeed, for someone who has bent over backwards to avoid trouble in recent months and years, I've spent more time in English prisons than some of the great train robbers. If this book writing gig catches on, my next effort might be a guided tour of the many and varied institutions of HM's prison service. Still, better late than never. I'm out. No more weekly sermons from the Marxist matron at the probation office, no more messing with mine and my family's lives just for the hell of it. I'm done with bowing and scraping to busybody do-gooders or looking over my shoulder for the police every time I tweet something mildly offensive to a home county's communist. I'm free of the English Defence League, and mostly, I'm finally free to make my own choices. With my track record, I suspect that will include making plenty more mistakes. I just hope that whatever they don't involve hearing the clanging door of a jail cell behind me. I've had enough of them, fairly or unfairly, for a lifetime. Don't worry, you're not going to need a box of Kleenex at your side as you read this. It really isn't Tommy Does tear-jerking. It's not a sob story. The trouble I found myself in has been, at times, clearly self-inflicted, but only at times. You might just learn something about the workings of a British police state that I doubt you believe exists. My overarching crime, at least in the eyes of the British establishment, has been to be a patriot. I love my country. I think that St. George's Day, 23rd April, should be a public holiday. I resent the fact that people who hate the country they call home are pampered and protected by a state that places their so-called rights above those of young men who risk and sacrifice their lives for British democracy. Oh, and just to make things clear from the outset, I really don't care about the color of those people's skin or the nature of their religion. I never have, and I still don't. I'm sorry if that disappoints a few of you. But here's something else I believe, that if you publicly declare war on me, my family, and my country, it's only to be expected that some of us will offer resistance. Clearly, I'm in the minority, or at least it seemed so, since this life of Tommy Robinson began in 2009. My name will forever be connected with the English Defense League, I know that. But this isn't a book about the EDL, although it obviously plays a major part. Theirs is a different story, perhaps for another day. For now, this is my story, my attempt to make sense of a life, and especially a recent past, that even I find barely believable. None of it was planned. But despite everything that I've been through, I have no regrets other than what my family has been put through, and that wasn't always of my doing. You'll notice that I don't name my wife and children in the book. That's deliberate. They still occasionally pay too heavy a price for having me as a father and husband. Coming home from Peterborough Nick, albeit a couple of days late, marked the end of an 18-month prison sentence, all because I lent my brother-in-law £20,000 for a deposit on a house. He overstated his earnings on a self-certification mortgage, which made it criminal. No one lost a single penny, but having tried and failed on numerous counts to put me away, to silence me, the state finally did. I would argue that they also tried to have me killed in the process, but that's for you to decide. It had taken the police and the state long enough. Pretty much every day since a group of angry Luton residents shouted enough, after watching extremist Muslims being encouraged by the police to scream their hatred at the returning soldiers of the Royal Anglian Regiment March 2009. But they'd done their worst. I was still standing, and I was free to speak my mind.